We're good to go?
We're good.
Good,
Yeah.
good deal. We're ready. Mic is on. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
For now. All right. Good morning, good people. Thank you so much for being here. This is our 11:30 session of Fundamentals in Fundraising. A quick housekeeping tip. We're having a physical convening, but also a virtual webinar. So that's why we have the microphone here. We're going to have a Q&A immediately following the presentation. But for folks in the webinar, if you have a question about something that you've heard, please send a message to info@artsbr.org, and we will forward it to the appropriate. And with that being said, I'd like to bring the introducer, gentleman and scholar, Clay Ache.
Thanks, bud. Good morning. I'm Clay Ache, creator of Ziggy and the Junkyard Band, Ziggy's Arts Adventure, and Beyond the Garage. I think I've done my duty. The Arts Council of Greater Baton Rouge aspires to advance diversity and equity in every aspect of our work. We celebrate our region's diversity and promote the role of the arts to connect people. To that end, we would like to take this moment to acknowledge the inclusive history of Baton Rouge, Louisiana, as part of our responsibility to honor and affirm Indigenous people, culture, history, and experiences. We recognize the communities native to this region, including Chitimacha tribe of Louisiana, Choctaw Nation, and others whose memories have been erased by violence, displacement, migration, and settlement. We are dedicated to expanding awareness of, increasing access to, and growing participation in the arts across diverse populations throughout our community. The Arts Council of Greater Baton Rouge, along with the Louisiana Division of the Arts, continues to listen and learn to better understand the people within our communities and the environment it inhabits. And now today's speaker, Nancy Little, founder of Little by Little Development and PR firm, joins us this morning to share some fundraising tips after more than 20 years of that for arts organizations like Arts Council, like the Arts Council, New York City Ballet, the Houston Ballet. You might want to check out her blog, Little Lessons Learned, after her talk this morning for more insight into dealing with things they're doing right and when they're going wrong. Nancy, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Clay. All right, let me make sure I've got my technical going right. Okay, fantastic. Well, hello, everyone. It's so nice to meet you. I'm thrilled to be here. It has always been a dream of mine to speak at the Louisiana Arts Summit, and so I'm grateful to be here. A little bit about me. I'm from Northern Louisiana. I grew up in Farmerville, Louisiana, swam in Lake D'Arbonne, went to school at Cedar Creek in Ruston, and then came to college here at LSU. Throughout my entire life, dance has shaped my life. I've taken jazz and ballet, and so wherever I went, I would find that dance studio. So, hi, come on in. Yes, I would find that dance studio, and so I danced for Twin City Ballet in Monroe. If anybody is familiar with that company or is from the Northern Louisiana area, I also performed a little bit with Paula here at Theater Baton Rouge. I had the time of my life. It was wonderful, and then also had the opportunity to perform in the Nutcracker with Baton Rouge Ballet Theater. So just I give that because I really just want to say thank you to the arts administrators here in this room, because what you do, makes a difference and makes an impact on people's lives. From taking ballet class as a little girl in her tiny tutu, really, led to a career in the arts, and it sent me to New York City Ballet to fundraise for the arts, to Houston Ballet to fundraise for the arts. And now I'm back in Baton Rouge. I just moved last week. So I'm going to refer to some notes. So I'm just thrilled to be back in Louisiana and to share my stories with you. And yeah, so let's, here we go. Sorry. So our agenda today, I'm going to come on in. I'm going to focus more on individual giving. I've been in the membership departments and individual giving departments of NYCB and with Houston, and so this is going to have more of a focus and a framework on those individual gifts. But so it's not to lose the audience. I'll just give one little tip with how we how we are focusing on corporate, and just some of the stories that I've heard with corporate as I've been helping out the Arts Council with corporate, and those messages, get on their timeline, get there early, and the mission has to align. I've had conversations with folks, and I'm like, I would love for you to do this, and it's with the school, and they're like, Nance, we don't do education, like that's not me, or this is outside of our scope, or we've already given, we've already created our budget for the year. So however you need to make those relationships with those corporations, that's my corporate tip for today. But this is what today we're going to focus more on individuals and individual giving, and what I have here is a graph from Giving USA. They promote or send a charitable giving report each season. And really what I want to drive home here is, this circle, this pie here. I say this looks a lot like my weight loss plan. Every year, the percentages may change ever so slightly. The pie is going to stay the same, and really what is great for is to show how each year individual giving are your front runners. They're the ones that are giving to those charitable organizations. Corporations, not so much. And just to also reiterate, we have, here we have from, other years of how this kind of rings true, that the pie is pretty much the same. And then you can also see, kind of where things are falling in terms of how people are giving. They're usually going to give to their alma mater. They're going to give to their church. They're going to give to the arts. And how we, how compelling our ask is going to help, with our, with our individual asks. So that leads us to our subscriber and donor base is key, and how we're getting to know, those donors, and really what drives them. Pardon me, I'm going to make sure I'm on the right page. There we go. And get to know what their interests are. Are they interested in performance opportunities? Are they interested in scholarships? Are they giving to the arts because of a particular life event? Are they participating in dance for Parkinson's? Are they do they grow up taking dance or participating in arts programs? And the way that we can craft those messages to appeal to those individuals will only, to me, that defines, am I going to go talk to somebody about a scholarship for a student to participate in the academy, or am I going to craft an ask that says, hey, we really like for you to sponsor the bubble bar at our gala? Because they're going to tell me, are they a social donor? Are they giving to to something because of something that is important, because of their life experience? Where are your individual donors? Your donors are going to give, donor annual fund, donor advised fund, your plan gifts, stock gifts, corporate match, plan giving. My top three where I tend to live is annual fund, donor advised fund, corporate match. And so annual fund, and I'm going to, because I come from ballet, y'all are going to see me probably hit first and hit third throughout the day. Annual fund, a little quick caveat here. Had some serious writer's block one day, and I went to our director of development and I said, we have to send, the quarterly annual fund letter. And I just felt like I had, hit all of the topics. And she looked at me and she said, Nance, just keep it simple. And so we did those. What came from that conversation were two letters. One, and this was at New York City Ballet, we did a point shoe fund letter, because it's like everyone can identify with point shoes. If you're an audience member, you see it on the stage, you can talk about the dancer and how those shoes really impact their lives. Come on in, come on in. We've got an extra time. No, that's okay. You can talk about that dancer and how those shoes really impact their performance. If, for example, if you're dancing in Swan Lake, you're probably going to go through 2 shoes a night. And then we also talked about costumes, and we talked about the Nutcracker costumes and the snow costumes and the craftsmanship that goes into that costume, and how the many layers of the detail of that, and the many artisans that have to that have to work to get that costume ready, and then also how the dancers feel when they are in that particular costume. So what that does, it did a couple of things. It talked about the impact of that costume, the cost and the expense and the workmanship that went into it, the dancer, how the dancer felt. And then also from an audience standpoint, we're talking about the Nutcracker, we're talking about Waltz of the Snowflakes, which is pretty iconic. It's something that everybody can identify with. And so I found that just keeping it very simple with the annual fund were more profitable for us than when I wrote a letter about someone was creating a new work, because it was like they hadn't seen it yet. It was a very kind of it was in the ideation phase. And so my tip for that is, if you're creating new work, that's probably an individualized ask, with your donor, to, who's interested in new work, who's interested in pressing that forward. I would go that route. Corporate match, there's a website that you can go to, and you can literally plug in companies, do they give corporate match? There's also, charities.org and others that will give you, those companies. Shell, love me some Shell Gallery. Once a year, they have the triple double match. And so somebody could give you $1,000, but that becomes a $3,000, gift. And so sometimes you are able to, work with people in that vein, for that individualized corporate match. And then of course your donor advice fund, which are great because, somebody's giving to their advice fund that's already tax deducted, and then they're just directing that gift. And then here again are conversations with my donors of in real time, like what has happened while I've taken donors to coffee, and what they're telling me are cues as to, are they social donors? Are they giving because they want to forward the arts in the community from an economic development standpoint, or just from an art standpoint, from personal experience? And what this falls in is Susan, let me make sure I say her name correctly, Susan Hallett has the 7 donor types, where somebody's giving because, they had a life experience. They're giving because of their community. I tend to kind of stay in, I keep repeating that, because for me in the arts, the folks that I associated with the most, fell into one of these 4 categories, as opposed to, all of the 7. And a personal story is one of my donors that actually joined the board. He joined because of personal life experience. His mom owned a dance studio. Now, this guy was like Mr. Engineer. He didn't take dance lessons. He wasn't dancing, but he grew up, and he literally told me, he said, I recognize the importance of this and what it does for the community. I watched, my mom owned a dance studio. This is important to me, and this is why I'm giving to this organization. Had another donor who was actually a board member at the time. She actually went to another organization because she was a social donor, and she wanted to do things that were social, and the organization at the time wasn't doing enough for her, and there was another organization that made her feel appreciated, that took her ideas, that listened to her. And she said, sorry, Nance, I'm taking my money down the street, and I'm going to go, be a donor at this organization. More so, I'm still going to support you, but because somebody is listening to me and making me feel appreciated and stewarding me slightly better than you are at this moment, I'm taking my money down the street. And I'm like, understood. Thank you for that feedback. I appreciate it. So some of you, I'm thinking I'm talking with folks that have very established arts organizations. Some may be just starting out, and some of this you may be saying, where do I start? Just how do I do, where do we go? First you could pull a list, pull a list of your top ticket buyers by, by subscriber or by your donor amounts, your list of most frequent visitors. We all have those folks that anytime we have a audience development event, they are there. They're there with bells on. They're the first one to show up. They may be the ones helping you, pull out the folding chairs and helping you set up because they love your organization so much. And a list of your more recent donors. And okay, so what do we do with that? It could be as easy as a thank you call. Thank you so much for your gift. May I ask what inspired your gift today? You're going to hear a story. I mean, sometimes they're like, thank you so much. Y'all are great. Click. You're not going to hear it. But sometimes they want to tell you the story. They want to tell you why. And all of that can just go into their donor profile so that oh, they loved Swan Lake. They attend Nutcracker every year. They danced as a child. Their granddaughters in the performance, and they're coming. Can you treat them to coffee? Kid you not, I had a donor that I was getting to know, and I just said, "Can I take you to coffee?" Yeah, and she said yes. We hadn't even gone to coffee yet, and she said, "I'm just going to give you a gift." Maybe she was preempting that. So, but can you invite to the green room? I love the story that there were some folks, this was while I was in Houston, and there were some folks from Baton Rouge that were in the audience that day. And I said, I just put a little seat note, on their chair. And I just said, hey, y'all come to the green room at intermission. These people felt like they won the lottery. And it was just, so basic, so simple. They were like, no one's ever done that for me. No one's ever invited me to the green room before. I've never had a seat note. And then there's also maybe for your higher level donors, can you, meet the artist, and a lot of times there's that lag time when the audience engagement event is over. You can say, oh, Mr. or Mrs. Artist, I'd love to introduce you to Mr. or Mrs. Donor, and just, stewarding those along. So here's our COVID story. I know that we've all experienced our COVID challenges. So while I was at Houston Ballet, we all had a halt or a change to our performances, and we needed to, place those online. We needed to figure out how are we going to fill this gap between our revenue and our donors. So what we did was we created a $5 million campaign that was going to support that ticket revenue. And so we did it through our program we did it through Classy, the Classy platform, and it was Keep Our Company Dancing. And so we invited our donors and subscribers to support Houston Ballet in big ways. So it was, can you donate, even though we're not on a stage, can you donate the amount of your subscription? Can you continue to give to the annual fund? Even though we're not going to have a gala in the way that we normally have a gala, can you still give, and buy a seat to attend the virtual gala? And work with us in that way. And we have people that really stepped up during this season. And the messages that I received, we had people that they lived in Omaha, but they were giving, and they said, this Houston Ballet is so important to me. And while I'm out of state, I'm giving to your organization. We did performances on Vimeo and online. We Zoomed everything, just like we're Zooming now. And we had dollars come in and financial resources come in because people said, thank you so much for your programming. During the challenging time, I needed to see dance. And we had people who also, here's our social donors. They said, this is my social circle. This is what I do on a Thursday night. You have to stay because this is just like walking the lakes at LSU. They're like, I go to the ballet and you have to stay here. So that's how the campaign, that's how we manage the campaign. And this is from the annual report of Houston Ballet. And I have it here, not not as a bragging point, but really just to drive home how important your individual donors are, is that if you look at this list, and this is just page 1 of that report, it's a lot of names here. I could, you want to step over here? Who's right here? Okay. It's there's names on this list more so, more so than corporations. In a way that we also got to this $5 million goal, our volunteers gave to the tune of $58,000. The Academy gave to the tune of $50,000. People are raising funds, saying, give in honor of my birthday, give in honor of my anniversary. And that's how we got to that goal. So that's the COVID individual giving story. So now I'm going to switch gears, still staying on individual. Another story, Moneyball the Ballet. Who watched the movie Moneyball with Brad Pitt? All right, there we go. So I did too. I loved it. So this is data and your donors. After watching Moneyball, I just said, how do I Moneyball the ballet? I remember going to our database manager. I was sitting in her office. I was like, if they're doing big things by figuring out who can get on first, I want to do big things with data. How do we do that? And she's like, okay. So I'm going to set the scene a little bit. So Houston Ballet we were hosting a donor recruitment event, and that donor recruitment event was surrounded around a rehearsal. We were inviting folks to the rehearsal, and we were going to ask them for $4,000. And we had, the way that we did that is through an invitation list and donor data. So the way that we created this list is we, back to the previous slide with how we started, we looked at our donors in higher level seats. We weren't really doing a whole lot of, as a friend of mine said, Excel gymnastics. We were just pulling higher level seats. Are you attending a lot to get to that level? Maybe you're not front row, but you're midsection in the theater. Who's there the most often? Who's coming to all of the audience engagement events? Donors at a certain gift level. We were going to ask somebody for 4,000. Who's at 2,500? Who's at 3,000? Who's just right there on the cusp? Donors in specific zip codes. We all have those zip codes that are like, I wish I lived in that neighborhood. So we pulled those zip codes, and individuals who had attended at least 2 or more events, and those could be audience development events or paid events. Who's not on the invitation list? So they'd never attended the ballet. We didn't have any ticket information on them. They hadn't attended any events. Friends of the development committee without that history. Staff who is not that history, because as soon as we said we're having the Swan Lake rehearsal and dinner, people were like, oh, I'm coming to that. I want to come to that. I want to come to that. And we're like, you kind of have to fall in this criteria. And I offer this because we have our development committee, we have our friends that are giving us leads, and this is a way to help us kind of guide those prospects and suspects. So somebody, true story, a friend of mine really wanted to be a mom. Like she was dying to become a parent. She's like, come to this wine tasting event with me, put on by this organization that is giving resources to moms with newborn babies. Go to the event, have a ball, meet all kinds of people. At the end of that event, my friend joins the board of this organization because that resonated with her. I gave $50 because I'm not a parent. It didn't resonate with me. So I'm like, I'm ballet and puppy dogs, but with her, she really wanted to be a parent. And so she joined at that level. So that's just a little caveat of where the affinity and capacity land. So I'm going to do a little timeout for those of you who are in the room. They're like, I don't have a database. I don't know how, I can't pull this list. Like, I'm a new board member. I have a new committee. I don't have anybody to give me leads, nothing, okay. The next 2 slides are for you. So here's my resources for list building, property lookup. This is, as I'm riding around that fantastic neighborhood, and somebody's like, oh, such and so lives on such and so street. I'm able to kind of complete that address for the invitation list, here. Birds of a feather flock together: symphony, opera, museum of art. As a ballet lady, I'm checking you out. I'm seeing, where my interests are. White pages, LinkedIn, Facebook, all of that, to kind of look up folks. I used LinkedIn yesterday. I needed to, even though it was an individual ask, it was a corporate ask with Dow. And so I was looking for who's my contact, and so I was in LinkedIn looking for that contact to see who do I have a relationship with. And I had my relationship with a friend that lived in DC, and I was looking for the Plaquemine person. So I wrote to DC and I said, can you help me with the introduction to Plaquemine? 24 hours later, here's who you need to talk to in Plaquemine. Facebook, our local economic development organization, census data, top zip codes. So let's just kind of look at this in real life. So I went to the census and I said, give me top zip codes by payroll. And I was able to pull this list. And so it gave me, I'm showing you this graphically, but you can buy this list. And because we're in Louisiana and, and a lot of, and we all kind of live in, our communities are like villages and we all know everybody, you can probably pull that list and cherry pick, who you want to, who would be a better donor versus the next person. So that's my timeout message. So game on, you have your list. So now you have your list. And so now we need to rank your list. And the way that we did this was we gave households a 1 to 5 affiliation based on their ticket buying activity, their donations, their events attended. So we're asking somebody for $4,000. So we gave somebody a rank level of a 5 that, was in the $2,500 and up. Events attended, if they come to 2 or more, they're getting a 5. If we've never seen them, they're getting a 0. And we were able to kind of see that line of demarcation of, here's our top 100 that need this invitation, and here are the folks that, yes, we will talk to, but let's not bring them to an event and have the off-putting conversation of asking for $4,000. So, and there again, we use this ranking system to kind of redirect donor suspects. And it just gave her a higher return on our resources, because I don't care what organization you're in, your time and your dollars, are limited, and you need to be spending that, where you're going to reap those benefits. So because we were able to work this ranking system, we were able to pay for the event. We were able to, the rehearsal, it paid for itself, and we received donors, from that event. So that is that story. Okay, lessons from a membership event. Let's go to New York City Ballet. So New York City Ballet every year has quarterly invited working rehearsals. So if you give $100, you are a member of the New York City Ballet and you are invited to a rehearsal. They usually show, 1 act, so you're not seeing the whole thing. But we had more than 1,000 members attend these rehearsals each time. And me, being from Louisiana, I was looking for more member engagement. And so I came to my boss and I said, we have 1,000 people who are coming to the ballet. They're sitting in the rehearsal room. We know nothing about them. We're telling them how to stand in line. We're telling them where they need to take their seat, but I don't know who they are. I don't know if they grew up taking dance as a little kid. I don't know if their grandma was a dancer. I don't know. Grandfather was a dancer. So the result of that was just previously it was mayhem. Whenever we had a donor rehearsal, we had people lined up outside the door. They showed up hours in advance. They would stand there. They would crowd the box office lobby. It made it difficult for our box office. When we would send people into the theater, people were jumping seats because it was first come, first serve. And these folks were like, I'm getting in row B, seat A. Like, I'm getting in that seat. So there was some seat hopping. There were some angry donors. And and also it just didn't make for a good uh it didn't make for good donor engagement. It didn't make for good donor data, because when you have somebody checking names off on a paper list and turning that in, if they draw a line through it, they put a little dot beside it, like what does that mean? And how do you have the time to sort through, more than 1,000 check boxes? So we made some changes. So for membership engagement, we worked with the resources that we had. We let the box office be the box office, and the box office seated the guests. So coming to the rehearsal was now like coming to the ballet with a ticket, and you were assigned to row B, seat 1. For Nutcracker, we also created opportunities to have conversations. So we opened concessions so people could have a cup of coffee or a glass of wine, depending on what move they were in or what time of day it was. We had a Nutcracker book. We created an opportunity for people to, to have a section of that book read. And then for rep, we had a happy hour where you could either go, there was a hotel across the street that wanted to partner with us. So we partnered with them, and we invited folks to have a pre-event, or post-event drink with us so that we could have conversations. So instead of telling somebody, this is where you need to line up like they're in kindergarten, we were now having, conversations with them like people. And then we were now able to run that list as, and see who attended the event and who didn't, which was then going to go into, other opportunities with our annual fund. Because if you're coming to all of the rehearsals, well, I'm going to invite you now to join at a higher level and get you into the donor circle where you can meet the artists or you can do the other things. So we had the donors received increased value for their gift. They now felt more stewarded, more appreciated. We were, we were able to have a more welcoming and streamlined event. So that was how we kind of took what we had and changed it. Now I'm going to go from membership to individual giving. I sat back and I thought about everything there was right. We stewarded our members in a way that we should have stewarded them. But then I thought, okay, if I'm going from individual giving and I could do it again, what would I do? So I would think of it in terms of move management and members engagement. And so we would have the RSVP list come in, and we would allow the box office to seat those guests. I would want to know, instead of inviting everybody to happy hour, because we had about 500 people that went to that happy hour, I would want to preview the RSVP for membership rehearsals. I would want to prioritize that list according to somebody's donor level. Is somebody lapsed? Do I need somebody recent? Is somebody a major donor? Maybe I need to spend a little bit more time here, and then I would do smaller groups. And then maybe I'm not able to, maybe a coffee or happy hour or something along those lines. I would do a seat note. If there's no budget to do number 3, then I would do number 4 and see how I can, meet with somebody in another way and have a more directed, longer conversation with someone. And so from an individual outreach, I would look at increased donations from, from donor engagement activities, having happier subscribers because we're greeting them at the door. We're working with them in that way, and now because we have the donor data through the box office, we're able to send, thank you emails and other things. So key takeaways, diversify your donations, with individuals, think of different ways we can engage our people. create opportunities for more donor engagement, use data to drive those fundraising asks, and less is more from an individualized stewardship. And that's me. And that's little lessons learned, my 3 stories about individualized outreach. I'm happy to take questions or share more. I don't know how we're doing on time. I was afraid of running out of time, but I have 15 minutes. Okay. Any questions? I can talk about New York City Ballet, Houston Ballet, classy campaigns. Okay. Yes, ma'am. The 3 different types of donors, like from a annual fund, like corporate donor, or like personas. Okay, great. Okay. So I I would look at it from, if you're looking at an individualized donor, um, you may have people that they're going to give because of scholarship opportunities, of supply opportunities, and you can curb your annual fund letter or direct ask, in that way with, how your program is impacting the students. And then you can also have a thank you note that's, because of you and because of your gift, we were able to provide ABC XYZ we were able to grow our arts program. We were able to serve this amount of students. We were able to host, we were able to hire, additional professors, for you. And there's a persona that it's a scholarship or academic, persona. It's like, I'm doing this because, for the greater good. And so Susan Hallett has the seven types, who at the top, all 7, I apologize, I cannot tell you right now. Yes. HOWLETT. Let me make sure. Anything else? Okay. Going once, going twice. Enjoy your day, everybody. I appreciate you allowing me to share my stories.